So Blueface pops back up talking slick, sounding cozy, and suddenly the internet starts acting like the circus tents got rebuilt overnight. One minute he is playing Couch Saint on the phone, the next minute folks swear Chrisean is back in the emotional group chat with front row seating. And just when people thought this mess could not get any louder, a whole other woman's presence starts turning that live into a reality show blooper reel.
Be honest. But I won't talk to no bitch for you. I'll sleep right here.
Ooh, let the games begin. Cause he already run a game on her.
For real. I'll sleep right here on the couch and I'll talk to no.
Now everybody is staring at their screens like, hold on, why does this feel like a reunion episode nobody asked for but everybody showed up to watch? Then here comes Rela getting dragged into the confusion like the internet just spins a wheel and picks a name to sacrifice every other Tuesday. People start guessing, misreading, connecting dots with crayons, and suddenly she has to clear the air before the rumor mill grows legs and starts tap dancing. Meanwhile, Nevaeh is over there refusing to crash out, refusing to audition for Misery, and refusing to give the crowd the breakdown they ordered with extra sauce. And somehow that calm is making this whole thing look even messier, because nothing shakes a chaotic room harder than one person choosing not to scream. That is why this story feels so dangerous, because it is not just one rumor, one phone call, or one late night spiral dressed up as romance. It is old wounds, new whispers, side characters getting pulled into the fire, and fans trying to play detective with half the receipts and all the audacity. Blueface says one thing, the live shows another, Chrisean's name starts buzzing again. And now everybody wants to know who is really in the picture. Because if this is only the beginning, then what happens when the next person stops being quiet? The whole thing really started to boil over the second Blueface's name drifted back into Chrisean's orbit, because with these two, one small interaction never stays small for long. It always turns into a neighborhood emergency, an internet jury trial, and a reality show reunion special all at the same time, with fans zooming in on every word like they are dusting for fingerprints. People were already tired, already suspicious, already sitting there with emotional helmets on, because every time it looks like the storyline is finally done, it rises from the grave in a fresh outfit with a louder attitude. And that is exactly why the second that Liv started circulating, the mood online changed from casual nosiness to full disaster watch, because folks immediately felt like something messy was trying to wake back up. What really sent the room spinning was the tone of the call, because it did not sound cold, distant, or stiff like two people who are truly finished and minding their separate business. No, it had that weird, familiar energy that makes everybody pause mid-scroll and go, hold on, why does this sound like a door that was supposed to be locked just got cracked back open? Blueface was talking like somebody trying to manage a situation, while also sounding a little too relaxed, a little too smooth, and a little too aware that thousands of people were listening and trying to decode every syllable. That alone was enough to make the rumor machine start foaming at the mouth, because with those two, even normal conversation starts sounding like a prequel to emotional demolition. Then came the part that made the whole thing feel extra reckless. Because while he is on the phone sounding cozy and careful, there is apparently another woman right there in the mix. Now suddenly, the internet is not just hearing a conversation, it is watching a contradiction perform gymnastics in real time, flipping between loyalty, confusion, performance, and pure clown behavior without stretching first. Blueface is out, here talking about sleeping on the couch and not talking to anybody, while viewers are side-eyeing the background like, "Sir, do we look blind, deaf, and spiritually disconnected to you?" That is when the situation stopped feeling like regular mess and started feeling like one of those Zeus episodes where everybody already knows the truth, but the cast still insists on lying with their full chest. And because this family drama universe never knows when to stop adding side quests, the baby conversation slid back into the chaos too, which only made everything more explosive. People started paying attention to how he sounded with the baby on the phone, and suddenly folks were acting like they had just witnessed a plot twist worthy of a season finale after all the distance, denial, and confusion that had already happened before. Add in the chatter about that deleted tweet, and now the internet thinks it is not just a late-night call anymore. It is a possible emotional relapse, a public contradiction, and maybe even a soft launch of another round of confusion nobody ordered. That is the thing about these situations. One tiny gesture becomes a full courtroom exhibit, and suddenly everybody thinks they are reading the first chapter of a reconciliation that has not even been officially written. Now enter Rela, because apparently no online mess is complete until somebody uninvolved gets pulled into the fire like a random extra who accidentally walked onto the wrong set. People began guessing who was on the phone, throwing names around like confetti at a circus, and before long Rela had to step in and make it clear that folks had the wrong one and needed to stop building fake stories out of fumes. Once children get mentioned, the tone changes fast, because now it is no longer just internet gossip and sarcastic tea pages having fun. It turns into people drawing sensitive lines where they do not belong and forcing mothers to defend themselves in public. That is what made her response hit harder, because it was less about joining the circus and more about slamming the gate shut before the rumor train ran over something that never should have been part of the show. And honestly, that side of the story is what made the whole situation look even uglier, because the internet loves drama until it spills into territory that feels deeply personal and careless. Folks were trying to connect dots with broken crayons, and instead of admitting they jumped the gun, they kept pushing the confusion until Rela had to basically say, "Do not play with me, do not play with my child, and do not put words in my mouth that were never there." That moment shifted the energy from funny messy to tense messy, because now the audience could see how fast these fan theories turn into wild accusations dressed up as entertainment. And once that happened, the story stopped being just about Blueface and Chrisean sparking rumors again and started turning into a bigger internet dogpile with collateral damage flying everywhere. Then there was Nevaeh, and this is where the whole saga got even more interesting, because while everybody else was serving confusion, contradiction, and emotional dodgeball, she came through with restraint. She was away with family, speaking calmly, shutting down the idea that she had been sent off somewhere like discarded luggage, and making it very clear that she had her own space, her own focus, and her own priorities beyond this constant carnival of headlines. Instead of performing heartbreak for the audience, she leaned into peace, pregnancy, motherhood, and staying centered, which somehow irritated the mess-hungry crowd even more because they wanted tears, rage, and table flipping, not emotional discipline. In a world where everybody expects the woman in the middle of the chaos to crash out on cue, Nevaeh refusing to react became its own kind of power move, and the more she spoke, the more the contrast became impossible to ignore, because while the internet wanted her to turn into a live-action revenge anthem, she kept sounding like somebody who had already done the math and realized the drama was not worth her peace. She talked about focusing on herself, focusing on her son, focusing on the baby she was carrying, and not trying to monetize every headline or squeeze clout out of every disrespectful moment tossed in her direction. That kind of answer always confuses spectators, because people claim they want maturity until maturity shows up and ruins their favorite fantasy of a public meltdown. So while Blueface and Chrisean's names kept lighting up speculation boards, Nevaeh was basically standing in the middle of the smoke saying, "I am not about to lose myself just because everybody else is addicted to noise," and that is why this whole drama started building real pressure, because it was no longer just about whether Blueface had reached out or whether Chrisean was back in the emotional picture. Now it was about overlapping women, internet assumptions, baby-related tension, public contradictions, deleted breadcrumbs, side characters getting dragged into confusion, and one very obvious question hanging over the whole thing like a storm cloud in designer heels. Fans could feel that something bigger was brewing, because every person involved seemed to be standing in a different version of the truth, and none of those versions matched cleanly enough to calm the situation down. By that point, the internet was no longer simply watching gossip unfold, it was watching a messy universe expand in real time, and the more people tried to explain it, the more suspicious everything started to look. By this point, the internet was no longer treating the situation like regular gossip, they were treating it like a live crime scene with ring lights, screenshots, and 12 unpaid detectives screaming over each other in the comments. Every T-page, reaction channel, messy blog, and bored late-night lurker started replaying the call like it was the Zapruder film of toxic romance, trying to figure out whether Blueface was really spinning the block or just. The reputations start wobbling hardest when the audience stops reacting emotionally and starts stepping back to look at the full picture, because that is when patterns become more embarrassing than any single clip ever could. Suddenly, the issue is not just who called who was in the room, or whose name got mentioned at the wrong time. It is why the same circle keeps generating the same storms with different decorations every single time. People begin to see women trying to protect their peace while chaos keeps circling them like vultures, and the longer that contrast stays visible, the uglier the whole ecosystem starts to look. At that point, the story is no longer just juicy, it becomes revealing, because it starts showing exactly who benefits from confusion, who gets punished by it, and who keeps surviving it while being told to smile for the audience. That is also where alliances begin to shift in strange ways, because in messy internet sagas people do not stay loyal to facts, they stay loyal to whichever version of the story flatters their favorite person the most. Some viewers start sympathizing more with Nevaeh because peace looks expensive in a circus like this, while others double down on defending Chrisean as the unavoidable center of a dynamic nobody seems able to fully leave behind. Then you have the crowd that keeps excusing Blueface as just being Blueface, like chronic disruption is a personality trait instead of a wrecking ball, and that is exactly how these toxic storylines keep surviving long after common sense should have buried them. Every time the audience refuses to punish the pattern and instead rewards the noise, the same cast gets dragged back into another round with even more emotional mileage and even less dignity. But here is the twist nobody can ignore now. This whole mess has exposed that silence may actually be the most dangerous move on the board, because it leaves too much room for people to wonder what is being thought, what is being planned, and what is being tolerated off camera. When one person is loud, the internet knows where to throw its attention, but when somebody stays composed and says less than expected, the speculation gets meaner, deeper, and far more obsessive, because now people start inventing the missing scenes themselves. That is why Nevaeh's calm has started feeling heavier than the shouting, and why every vague move from Blueface feels like bait, and why Chrisean's name hovering over the situation still feels like a thundercloud that never fully drifted away. The loudest thing in this aftermath is not the yelling, it is the unanswered question of what all these people are really doing when the cameras are not giving the public front row seats, and that is exactly why the story does not end with closure, healing, or some neat little bow tied around the mess like a holiday special for exhausted gossip addicts. It ends with suspicion still hanging in the air, with reputations half-scorched, with women trying to hold onto dignity while the internet keeps begging for another explosion, and with one very obvious reality no one can fully outrun. Because if one phone call, one background voice, one clarification, and one woman refusing to react could create this much smoke, then imagine what happens if the next live gets more direct, the next slip gets more obvious, or the next person decides they are done being polite. And once that happens, the question will not be why Rela got dragged into it too, The question will be who is getting pulled into the next round when the circus opens its doors again. So now I need y'all in the comments immediately, because this mess was giving soap opera on pre-workout, family group chat from hell, and reality TV court hearing with no judge and too many liars. Tell me who looks the messiest here, who is moving the shadiest, and why Rela somehow got dragged into a situation that was already wobbling like a folding chair at a cookout. And do not come in there acting brand new either, because this whole story had more background chaos than a Zeus reunion and more emotional plot holes than a low-budget season finale. If Blueface is spinning the block again, if Chrisean is back in the rumor fog, and if Nevaeh is really choosing peace while everybody else chooses confusion, I already know y'all got opinions hotter than that comment section can hold. And while you're at it, smash that like button like it owes you money, subscribe like the tea is locked behind a gate, and turn those notifications on like you are waiting for the next live to ruin everybody's peace before breakfast. Do not sit there lurking in silence after all this circus-level confusion, because I know you were side-eyeing your screen just like the rest of us when this whole thing started unraveling. This was not regular drama, this was emotional dodgeball in designer chaos, and if the next twist drops, you already know we are not showing up late to the madness. We are pulling up early, messy, observant, and fully hydrated, because the storyline keeps serving confusion with a side of audacity, and I know y'all see it too. So tap in, speak up, and stay locked with fame flaws where the tea is hot, the shade is accurate, and the drama gets unpacked like it just got caught lying on live. If this story shook the timeline, embarrassed a few reputations, and left more questions than answers, just know we are not done watching the circus spin. Because around here, we do not just watch the mess, we break it down, flip it over, and check the underside for more lies. Stay loud, stay nosy, and stay glued to fame flaws.